So I'm going to start recording. Recordings in progress, and we're going to do a Facebook Live. So that anyone who's on Facebook can join us too. So put in the chat your kids' ages. If you've traveled before, if it's your first time traveling. So let us know. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. Lauren, remind me, how old are your kids?
My kids are 4 today and 7.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Let me let people in. Oh, are people coming in? Cool, people are coming in. Welcome, everyone. Start putting in the chat. Hi, Irene, Anna, Katie. Feel free to start putting in the chat your kids' ages. If it's your first time traveling, if it's your second time traveling, however many times you've traveled before.
That was me. Oh, shoot.
I can. Okay. All right, cool. Whoa. Oh, 11 weeks old. Wow, you've got a little one. That is so fun. Is it your first time traveling? I remember my first time traveling with my son. He was crying the whole time. And eventually a stewardess came over and was like, let me take your child. So it was not a great experience. So I hope others have had better travel experience, and we want to share with you tips and tricks of traveling with little ones. So let's see. We are live streaming this. I'm letting people in. An 8.5-month-old. All right, air travel. Is your little one crawling? Because that is also a fun new game. Traveling with a crawler is always, I found, really tough. It was hard when they were really little, and then once they start crawling, and then I joke that there is a moment where they're just not iPadable yet, so there's not much that you can do. So let's get started. Can everyone see my screen okay? Awesome. All right. Well, jumping right in is I'll just really quick give a little spiel on Sprinkles Parents if you aren't familiar. Sprinkles Parents is just a parent solutions platform where we provide education, activities, and resources to all your families for kids under 5. We have really fun events. We have, and we're selling these hats of Team No Sleep if anyone has little ones that don't sleep like my children, as we want to provide as much resources and support for all of you parents with kids with little ones, as it's really hard to be a parent nowadays. And there's almost too much information out there and everything. So we're here to support you and your needs. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Lauren.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. I can see the chat. So if you have questions as we go that you want to put in the chat, feel free to enter them. Or totally cool if you want to go off mute and just ask your question. That's cool too. Brooke and I thought this would be a good time to host one of these because I imagine maybe some of you are thinking about traveling for the holidays. We've got Thanksgiving coming up. I personally refuse to travel over Thanksgiving for many reasons. Just the prices are crazy, and we go to the East Coast, and for going for 4 days just doesn't make sense for me. But Thanksgiving's coming up. We've got December, holidays in December. So if you are planning a trip over the next couple of months, feel free to put that in the chat and let us know where you're going. So basically, really quick, my name's Lauren. I have 2 kids. They're 4 and 7. I moved to the Bay Area when my first kid was 2 months old. Don't recommend doing anything like that. But here I am, and no regrets. And I'm originally from Philadelphia. The trip that I'm planning in December, I'm going to fly to Key West, and my mom is going to meet us there. And that's going to be my first red eye. I'm I'm a little bit nervous about doing a red eye, but it's what made the most sense for us timing wise. And someone recently told me, don't let your kids nap during the day. If you're going to do a red eye, better chance of them falling asleep. And I will be giving both my kids melatonin gummies as soon as we get on the plane. So I don't know. Let's see how it goes. That's my plan. Also, just to note, I don't know if anyone's going anywhere international. International is a whole other ball game, but I just wanted to plug, I work at UC Berkeley, and UC Berkeley actually has a passport center. And if you need to get your kids passports, it is literally the easiest place to get your kids a passport, so much easier than the post office or anywhere else like that. You can get an appointment easily. They know how to work with kids really well. So I highly recommend UC Berkeley's Passport Center.
Do they take the pictures for you guys too?
Yeah, they do it all.
Wow. So it's one stop, a picture. Okay, cool. That's great.
All of it. Yeah. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is preparing for your trip, what to pack, how to get to the airport, how to get to your final destination, how to survive the plane trip. If you are going to be dealing with jet lag while you're away, some tips for that, coming home, and then we'll save some time at the end for questions. But like I said, feel free to just ask questions as we go as well. Okay, so if you're thinking about when to fly, my biggest tips are early morning flights are always better because there's the least amount of possibility for those flights being delayed. The later you book your flight during the day, the more chance your flight is going to be delayed. So I highly recommend booking those flights. Some of you might be wondering, should I do direct? Should I do a layover? For me personally, I'm just like, let's just go get it over with, not deal with the layover. But there are some people who really need the layover. Their kids need it. Like they need to move and they need to get off the plane and get some energy out for like an hour or so. But for me personally, that just adds another layer of risk of you being delayed in some way. So I prefer to just go for it, but I would say that if you feel like your kids are the types of kids that need to be running for an hour to make this a success, then by all means, book yourself a layover. What to pack on your carry-on? Okay. First of all, let me just let you know that you can check in your car seat at no cost. And if you bring a stroller, you can bring your stroller to the gate, take it all the way to the gate, and then they'll put it under the plane for you, and it'll be waiting for you when you get off the plane. For checking in your car seat, I want to talk about car seats for a second. Some people choose to bring it on the plane. Honestly, I've flown so many times with my kids. I've never seen a kid with a car seat on a plane. Some people swear by it because they say that's the only way that their kid will sleep. Now, don't forget, if you bring a car seat on the plane, you have to pay for a seat for that child. If you don't bring a car seat on the plane, and if your kid is 2 or under, then they're free, but they have to be in your lap. For me personally, lugging that huge, heavy car seat is just never worth it. I'm always going to check it in, but there are lightweight travel car seats that you can buy. And I do recommend spending the extra money to buy a travel car seat because it's so much lighter. And also if something happens to it, then you still have your regular car seat at home.
Hey, Lauren, there's a question on what the best lightweight travel car seat is. Do you have a brand that you recommend?
Do I have a brand? Let me see.
Are Dinos, are those the light car seats?
No, I don't like those.
Okay.
Chico has one. Yeah, I might have a recommendation for brand, or if anybody else does, feel free to put it in the chat. But I would look at Chico, but specifically Google car seat for traveling.
So they're different than regular car seats because they're a little lighter to carry around.
Yeah, they're lighter and they're also narrower.
Okay.
The golden age is when your kids don't need a car seat anymore and they can fit in a booster, and so much easier to travel with a booster. But when you are going around the airport with your car seat, we purchased one of those car seat bags. So it's like a backpack that you can fit your car seat in. But you can see in the picture here, there's also have these things like a seatbelt type thing or a strap that you can put around your suitcase. It's another way to take it around, and you can even put your kid in there and wheel your kid around. So anyway, that's my recommendation on car seats. If you're going to bring a pack and play, you can check that in. That counts as luggage though, so you do have to pay for that. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's Brooke. Okay, thank you for those recommendations.
Oh yeah, I just sent the backpack.
Oh yeah, the backpack, which I really like because it's one less thing you have to pull. But I want to tell you, oh wait, can you go to the next slide?
Yes, and can you bring in the base of the car seat too, if it's like an infant one?
Yeah, so you check that in with the car seat or you bring it on the plane, yes. But you don't need the base.
Right.
You technically can just put the infant car seat in the car and use the seatbelt to wrap around it, and you actually don't need the base, and that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, especially with Ubers or Lyfts or any kind of taxis when traveling around.
Yeah, exactly. Now, a few things about getting to and from the airport. For me, the way that I've had the most success, honestly, is not to ever bring car seats on my trip. It involves a little bit of extra coordination, but it makes everything so much easier. So what I do is I ask my neighbor or my friend to drive us to the airport in my car with my car seats already installed. They drop us off, and then I have people at the other end receiving us come pick us up with car seats. I know that relies on a lot of things happening, but for me, that's the ideal situation when I have 0 car seats with me at the airport or on the plane. And you might say, why would my neighbor do that for me? Because I always offer to drive them to the airport when they're going on trips. So I'm just throwing out that suggestion. It's been a total lifesaver for me to have my friends drive me and pick me and family pick me up with car seats in the car. There are some cities that have Uber car seat. Not all and not many, but if you might want to check. If you are going to a city that has Uber car seat, they'll pick you up with car seats in the Uber. The one thing I do not recommend is renting a car and renting car seats. And I'll just tell you quickly why. We did that once. The car seats were so old, so broken, so nasty. And I'm really not that picky, but really it was like disgusting. And we arrived late. Then they don't come installed in the car. You have to install them. And you all know how hard, at least for me, how hard it is to install a car seat, especially when you're not familiar with. That is the last thing you want to be doing when you arrive after a long flight with kids. So I really don't recommend renting car seats if you can get around that. They're old, they're expired. And half the time when you arrive at the car rental place, they don't remember that you ordered them. Then you have to wait an hour for them to find them in their back storage room to bring them out.
And also I've had it where they didn't have any car seats. And so I was like, so how am I supposed to leave the airport without a car seat? This is illegal for you to let me not have a car seat. And I literally can't safely bring my kid anywhere. And they're like, well, sorry, we don't have car seats. There's nothing we can do. So it's also, I think, relying sometimes on them is really hard too, as just like another tip or trick. I'm sure you're going to get to learn, but I know there's like services that can also give you car seats at your destination.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you can rent them. Baby Quip, companies like that. You can definitely rent car seats as well. But the trick is you really need to have the car seats when you're upon arrival, right? To get from the airport to where you're going. And then finally, if you are going to check in your car seat, the easiest thing to do, honestly, is to wear your baby if you have a baby. It's so much easier to get through the airport, to get through security, all of that, just wearing your baby instead of dealing with the stroller, in my opinion. Just get rid of the stroller as fast as possible. Wear the baby if you can. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, okay, see, perfect, wearing baby. Some of you might be wondering, do they check my kids? Do they ask for kids' IDs at the airport? They do not. I think it's like 12 and under, they don't ask for an ID. Can't remember the exact age. It would be very surprising if somebody asked for your kid's ID. The only case I have seen that happen is if you purchased a lap seat, right? So you're not paying for your kid's seat, and maybe it depends on who you get, but they might say, well, we need proof that your kid is under 2. And then so maybe take a picture of your kid's birth certificate or bring a copy of your kid's birth certificate. But you're never going to be asked otherwise for your kid's ID.
Yeah, I always try and bring their birth certificates or passport that I have, just in case, once you're on trips and things like that. You never know like what activities you're doing where ID may be needed too.
Mm-hmm. So going through security, like I said before, it's so much easier if you're wearing your baby. If you have your stroller, you've got to fold up your stroller, you've got to put it through, blah, blah, blah. Let's say that you have milk. You definitely can bring your milk through, but they are going to need to test it. And this delays things. It depends on who you get, but some people take a really long time. Okay. I was looking at Nancy's tip in the chat. Very good tip. Milk. Yeah. So they have to test the milk, and if they don't always know what they're doing. So it could add another 20 minutes to your time to get through security. So just be prepared for that. If that's like for your breast milk, if you just are trying to bring through regular cow's milk, you can buy that in the airport. They sell milk. So just think about that, because it does take a while for them sometimes to test the milk.
And then just really quick, I was gonna say, like, if you aren't familiar with the process of how they test your milk, for some of the new moms, essentially they'll like they'll take your freezer or your like wherever you have your bottles, they'll unzip it, they'll open up. I don't think they do every single cap, but I think they pick a few, and they just stick like a paper swab in there to make sure there's like no chemicals or bombs or anything like that. So just so you're prepared, like what that experience looks like. A sealed formula bottle. So if it has the water in it, I think they do test that milk with no matter what, if there's water. I don't think, and the powder, I think they must test too. But you might be able to get away with the powder a little easier depending on how you're transferring it.
And sometimes it just really depends on who's working that day, which is really annoying. Yeah. But a lot of airports, most of them have these pumping stations you can see in the picture. And some of the, like San Francisco airport is one of the best in the world, I would say. They have such lovely lactation rooms. So I highly recommend using them. They're very pleasant. And then once you finally get through, I just highly recommend get your kids as much energy as you can out before you get those kids on the plane. San Francisco has such amazing play areas, play zones. So like even if your terminal, or even if your gate is not near one of the play zones, I would go find it if you have time, because they're awesome and it's a great way to get the kids' energy out. And the one thing I want to mention about breastfeeding or giving milk in any way is save some of it for takeoff. So think about your timing, because having the babies drink milk upon takeoff is really helpful for their ears. So if you can sort of time it, don't give them all the milk before takeoff. And then once you get on the plane, you know how sometimes like you sit on the runway for half an hour. So don't start actually feeding until the plane is like about to take off and you know for sure. Because I've definitely been in a situation where I was like, oh yeah, okay, we're about to take off, and I start breastfeeding, and then it's like, oh, I was wrong. And we're still have 30 minutes and now I'm screwed for actual takeoff. If
Yeah.
that happens to you, pacifiers are helpful. Anything with that involves sucking.
Like sippy
But
cups and things like that, especially for toddlers. Or those like
to,
squeezy yogurts is what I had my kids do when it was takeoff. The past flight that I thought worked kind of well, just because they were sucking in things.
yep, great. Lollipop. All right, can you move to next slide? All right, so how like okay, the flight. Um, I always say it's not fun. It's never going to be fun. It's never going to be easy. But if you decide not to do it, then you're not going to travel. And what's more worth it, right? So obviously, I love travel. That's why I started Travel Bucket. So it's always going to be worth it. As even if the flight is hell, I'm still going to do it. So we've all made this decision. We all recognize the value of travel, but it's not ever going to be easy. Once your kids are able to be able to focus on a show, for me, all rules out the window, all screen time rules out the window. When you're on a plane, no rules apply. You watch whatever you want for however long. I don't care. That's how I approach that. But of course, when kids are like babies, they don't have the attention span to do something like that. So what do you do? So some tips: snacks. I like wrapping snacks in like tin foil or even wrapping paper or something like that, because it's like another activity for them to do is to unwrap, and they're like little gifts and their presents, and it just prolongs the experience. It's just a way to take up time. Snacks, maybe some snacks that the kids haven't ever had before, so it's new and exciting. That goes for toys too. Like if you go to the dollar store, pick out some toys that that you don't care about them losing, because you will lose like half the things that you bring. They will disappear wherever they are. They will disappear. But yeah, toys or the books or things that the kids have never seen before, so it's new and exciting. I really like water wows. If you haven't heard of a water wow, it's a great plane activity. Look it up. Window clings, they like stick to the window. Stickers are fun, but be careful, because like if they start sticking things to windows, sometimes it doesn't come off, and then that's something you have to deal with. And if anyone else has anything that's really worked on planes, feel free to put it in the chat. But really, new, wrap things, anything, just wrap it in wrapping paper, make it exciting. And then definitely just change of clothes. I was always like, oh, I'm not going to need that. And I always did. So change of clothes for the kids. They will poop on themselves. They will poop on you. Change of clothes for you. And then for those of you who have never been on a plane yet with a baby, if you need to change a diaper, you go into the bathroom, and above the toilet, there's like this little pull down thing. Before kids, like obviously I never even thought about that or knew it was there, but it's always there. So there's a little changing table that comes down that's right above the toilet, where you can change. And also know about diapers. They don't really sell diapers in airports, which I think is crazy, but they don't. So make sure that you bring lots and lots and lots of diapers. I've definitely asked people on planes for diapers, and just look for the kids. And you can always borrow. And another thing about other families, it's always so nice when you sit next to or near another family, because you're like, okay, we're in this together, and you don't feel guilty. But I just want to say, don't ever feel guilty for your kid crying. Every person on that plane probably flew when they were a baby too. And you might get dirty looks. That's their problem. Like, everyone is allowed to fly. I've heard of some people that bring gifts for like their neighbors on the plane, like little bags, like sorry bags, like thanks for your understanding. For me, I'm kind of like, everyone's allowed to fly. And you can roll your eyes at me and my kids if you want, but that's just my approach. Some people pack little goodie bags for people.
Um, that's a really good idea, by the way, you were saying about finding other parents on the plane. Keeping your eyes out for all the other families, because on the plane at some point, your kids sometimes have to go to the bathroom or just get up in general. And so what we actually did on our last flight, which I thought was kind of fun and wanted to share, is we switched toys with the kids on the plane, because some reason someone else's toys are way cooler than the ones that I gave, right? Them. So we did like a toy swap with one of the families. Like we just traded a truck for a truck, or a sticker for a water wow, like you were sharing, Lauren, that I put in the chat. Just, making those parent friends, having the kids talk to each other, share toys is just another way that kind of makes it a little easier on the plane.
Yep. Yeah, I like what you said, Ruth, in the chat. That's so true. And so not cool, but yeah. Okay, can you switch slides? Okay, so jet lag. Some helpful tips for dealing with jet lag. Getting sunlight and having your kids get their energy out is so key. So if you arrive and you're just like, the kids just need to crash, and I just recommend keep them up until like 6 p.m. if you can, and get them sunlight during the day. It really helps them with their adjustment. And also with jet lag, I would say, like, don't plan anything that you really care about doing the first couple days, because the first couple of days might just be messy. And that really goes for the way coming back too. I used to, come back the night before school started the next day, like a Sunday. I learned I'm never doing that again. I'm always going to come back on a Saturday or even the Friday before, because especially if you're changing time zones, it can take like 2 or 3 days for everyone to adjust. So I highly recommend thinking about that when you're booking your tickets, giving yourself some time to adjust there and back if that's possible. I know that's not always possible. But if anyone else has tips about jet lag, feel free to share. But yeah, I just think getting them out and about, and if you can just in any way force them to stay awake till 6 is what is my rule of thumb. Okay, so here's my overall top 5 tips. I know I said this before, have a friend or neighbor drive you to the airport, game changer, and you don't have to pay for, keeping your car in the parking lot for however long you're gone as well. If you are staying at a hotel or an Airbnb, it's so helpful having a kitchen, especially for like picky eaters, or, your kids waking up at 5 a.m. You can't run out to a restaurant at 5 a.m. So just having a little kitchen so that you can prepare meals at any time of the day that you need to for the kids, or at least a refrigerator or something like that, is a game changer. My tip number 3, coming home can be so stressful. You're so tired. You have so much dirty laundry. So 1, bring back as much clean laundry as possible on your last day of vacation. If you can load up that suitcase with clean clothes, and imagine not having to do laundry right away when you get home, that's ideal. And then I ask my neighbors, I do have really special neighbors, but I do ask them to stock my fridge. Or if you don't have like neighbors like that, you can also do like Instacart or something like that. Just knowing that food is going to be available. Can you imagine if you got back from a 6-hour flight and it's 10 p.m. when you get home, supermarkets are closed and you have nothing? So just think about having food readily available for you at your home. And that goes both ways, from where you're going and for when you're coming back. Tip 4, come back 1 to 2 days before work or school. I just talked about that and the reasons why. And then I did want to mention something about COVID, because, COVID is still like a thing. I know we're not in a major surge right now, but you might be going to a location that is surging. You might be going to a location where people aren't vaccinated, like the majority of the population isn't vaccinated, who knows? Masks are not required on planes anymore. They're not required in airports anymore. And my recent experience, I would say about 2% of people are wearing masks still in planes and in airports. That's been my experience. I still try to have my kids and us wear masks on the plane. They used to say like being in the airplane is one of the safest places for COVID because of the way that the air filtration is. But in my last trip to Philadelphia, my father-in-law flew without a mask and got sick and gave us all COVID. So I don't know, I'm a little bit not unsure. So for me, I'm still wearing a mask on the plane, and my kids are, but no one else is. So just a heads up on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a good point just about kids being sick on planes too. Like if your kid catches a cold and is about to get on a plane, right? Because of their ears on planes and all of that, might make them really fussy if they have a runny nose and ears or stuff too. So you obviously don't want to get your kids sick, but if they are sick, thinking about that when on the plane, is another thing just to keep in mind too.
Yes, thank you. And then I think there's one more slide. Okay, before we do Q&A, I'll just let you all know what Travel Bucket is in case any of you are interested. Basically, I do like customized trip planning for families traveling with young kids. I don't book anything for you. I don't tell you exactly what to do. I just provide you with a set of recommendations for your accommodation, for activities, or for restaurants, all of which are kid friendly. And I have a whole intake form so I get to know exactly what you're looking for. So it's like Lonely Planet, but a customized Lonely Planet just for you. Everything is kid friendly. And then you pick and choose what you want from the recommendations, but you have the recommendations at your fingertips. And you don't have to do any of the research, which we all know takes so much time. Some people love it. Some people love trip planning. I'm not for you. I'm for people like Brooke who hate trip planning. And I personally just love doing all the research and making it the best trip possible. And my recommendations tend to be more like off the beaten path, hidden gem type things to really make it special. So feel free to check it out. But yeah, if I know we're maybe at time, but if anybody does want to ask some specific questions, I'm happy to answer, or others on the call might also have information to share.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Go for it.
So I'm going to Idaho to visit my father-in-law who is like super bachelor status, and I'm flying with a 29-month-old and a 9-month-old. And I'm wondering like how much stuff should I send there? Like for sure I'm gonna send diapers and wipes and snacks, but I'm wondering, should I even go the distance and like send a package of their snow clothes so we don't have to pack it?
It's a really good question. And I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot to mention that. I think that's a great idea to send diapers, wipes, all the heavy stuff and the big bulky stuff. Great idea. Send it to your final destination. And yeah, I actually do. The less that you can pack and bring with you on the plane, the better. So, and we know, yes, all that snow gear, it takes up so much space. So unless you can, I don't know if you have like family or friends in the area that you could borrow that stuff from. That's obviously the most ideal. And then they could drop it off at your father-in-law's house. But if that's not a possibility, I personally think that I would go that route and ship it there. But then you also have to ship it home.
And same with
Right,
toddler
but
potties too, by the way. That's another thing if you have like a toddler potty, like potty training little kids. I had that in September where we didn't want to carry like the potty with us. And so we just had a family member borrow another family member's potty for our trip. So also keep the potties in mind. Who'd have thought? You have to think about these things now with traveling.
Yeah.
Right. And I was also thinking of like a booster chair or a high chair. I mean, we're only going to be there for 4 days, but these are the things that are going through my mind. And I'm just wondering, is that too crazy of me to like ship a huge box of our stuff there?
So is this the only time you're going to be going, or do you envision yourself going there annually, for example?
No, I think this is probably going to be like the only time we go.
Yeah. Yeah, because the reason I asked is like, if this is a location you're going to be going to often, maybe it's worth just investing in buying that gear and keeping it there for whenever you go. But if it's like a one-off thing, I would say, I mean, they do have like travel high chairs, you know, that like fold up and things like that. Like you could bring it, but again, it's so heavy and it takes up so much space.
Well, Baby Quip could deliver it too.
Totally. So there are these companies. There's one I think called Loop Baby and Baby Quip, and you can rent these things. And yeah, they'll deliver it to your father-in-law's house. There's also, you know, like buy nothing groups. It might be worth looking on a buy nothing group or Craigslist or something like that. You know how many people are getting rid of this stuff, and doing it that way as well. But definitely, yeah, flying with all that gear, I do not recommend.
Especially if you're ordering it too. I think, Erica, you're saying like the jackets and the pants, if you're just going to be ordering it from Primary or something anyways, have it shipped there versus straight to you. So it's at least only one way you have to bring it back.
And then I'm looking at this comment, any kind of bags that are good for young kids, like do you mean a backpack or luggage? What kind of bag are you talking about? Luggage. I've definitely seen like those little rollies for kids. For me, I'm just like, I don't find them to be very practical, because then it's just like, oh, another thing you have to like tell your kid to take care of, and another thing for you to have to worry about. But maybe some kids are excited about that. But I do backpacks because they have to wear it and it just feels easier. A rolly, that'll be fun and exciting for like 10 minutes. And then it's your problem, in my mind. Okay, thanks. Nancy made a recommendation about a travel high chair. And if you want to bring these things, ask your friends if they already have them. Because if they're not traveling and they don't need it, maybe you can just use theirs and bring theirs with you. There's also blow up baby baths, like inflatable baby bath. So you don't have to, you know, so it's inflatable. So that's easy to pack. Yep, exactly.
Lauren, there was a question about how to organize and keep like family passports and everything safe, you know, as you go through the airport and organized.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any like things you use, like a container or Ziploc bags you put it in or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just definitely don't ever let your kids hold any of those documents, even if they think it's fun. No, I am a control freak, so I hold all those documents. I don't let Drew hold them either. That's my husband. But yeah, I like the idea of a big Ziploc bag. I have like a little passport holder where I have all of their things. But definitely make a photocopy of everything just in case. And don't ever let your kids hold them. The tickets, the plane tickets, none of it. I'll let them like hand it over to somebody because they think that's fun, and then I'll take it right back.
Great tip. Any other questions anyone has for traveling?
Yeah, that's a great point, Anna. And I also wanted to remind you, some places still do ask for vaccination status. So I would recommend taking a picture of your Vax cards, or at least just having that available to you. Because I mean, that was more maybe during the height of things, but you never know. And so I do recommend taking photos of your Vax cards. Oh, and then speaking of COVID, you might want to stock up on some rapid tests. A lot of schools, I know my kids, I mean, it's not a requirement, but a lot of them are recommending after Thanksgiving, for example, that you test your kids. So you might want to stock up on a few rapid tests. Also, for if you're visiting family, just for like peace of mind. I had like the most hellish summer last summer where I was in Philadelphia for a month and I couldn't see my family for basically the whole month because someone had COVID the whole time. So that was a disaster. But we had lots of rapid tests and they were we needed them. So stock up. At least they're easier to get now.
Sure, that's a good call. Anything else, anyone? Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you, Lauren from Travel Bucket, for like giving us your advice and everything. If anyone's free tomorrow and wants like a mom's morning out for Sprinkles parents, we have a Mom's Fit for Mom event at Gilman Brewery. So you can work out by yourself with some other moms and have a beer. And then if you like my hat, Team No Sleep, please support Sprinkles parents and grab your hat today so we can continue providing you these resources. So thanks, everyone. Have a
good luck and you're champions, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. If they roll their eyes, that's their problem, not yours. You're the champion.